Now, we see what the Saints do next at quarterback. They have, after going all in to get Deshaun Watson and not getting him, they pivoted back to Jameis Winston. Here's Dennis Allen from earlier this week talking about why they've decided to entrust the team yet again to the guy who was the starter last year until he tore an ACL in Week 8 against the Buccaneers. Here's Allen on Winston.
Well, I think the number one thing was 14-3. So 14 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. I think that was the biggest thing that showed me that, he can be our quarterback. I thought he did a great job of protecting the ball, and we were 5-2 with him as a starting quarterback. And so I felt like he was a guy that gave us an opportunity to win. And so, so we felt good about that. I think probably the biggest thing was, I thought he did a really good job with his decision-making. And he protected the football. He put our team in a position to win. And I think in our league, the number one thing you have to do is figure out how not to lose games before you can really figure out how to win them. And, I thought he did a great job of understanding the type of team that we have and putting our team in a position to go win, and he did a good job of that.
Hey, Mike, that's always been the biggest challenge for Jameis Winston. A lot of that Carson Wentz mentality where you try to do too much. You think that you are capable of doing more than you are physically capable of actually doing, and you put the team in bad positions. You put yourself in bad positions. You have ugly turnovers, fumbles, interceptions, etc. Sean Payton was coaching that out of him. I still think there was more work to be done, especially as it relates to running that very precision underneath passing game. We take for granted how awesome Drew Brees was at that, how accurate he was, how mechanical and methodical he was. Winston, great arm strength down the field, but he was still figuring out how to run that offense with quick decision-making, with quick release of the football, delivering it with pinpoint accuracy. But, they could do a lot worse than a guy that has been in the system for 2 years. Continuity is the key. With Sean Payton leaving, I can't recall a time when a team has had the head coach who was so responsible for the team's success leave, but everything else stays in place. And it's going to be interesting to see how this team does without Sean Payton, because everything Payton brought is still going to be there for the most part.
Yes. And I think that is so key, Mike. Listen, covering this guy all the way, obviously, from college to now, that's what he did at Florida State. He felt if there was a guy covering his guy, he could throw the ball through that defender. It would literally go through his body and into his receiver's hands. I mean, that's how confident he was, and it was usually 30 yards downfield. And unfortunately, there'd be turnovers that came with it. And listen, he also, I think, 3 times in his career, I think all in Tampa Bay, he fumbled over double-digit times as well. So it was a problem between interceptions and fumbles. He has always been a guy that just tried to light it up down the field. So I always said he won't throw 30 interceptions, like I said last year, if he played the whole season with Sean Payton, because Sean Payton would pull him before that would happen. But the Sean Payton coaching, and I thought what was said was the truth. And I said it before, 14-3. 7 games, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He wasn't turning the ball over. 5-2. This game is about winning, not turning the ball over, not changing the field position to your detriment. And he wasn't doing any of that. So I think hopefully they say he's ahead of schedule on his recovery. I think it was the right move to bring him back. He was winning with them and he wasn't turning the ball over. And the continuity at the coaching staff, I think, was huge. If it was a whole new staff, I might think a little differently, but let's see if he can get a whole season in with this continuity, and let's see what he can do.
One big change for the Saints without Sean Payton there. The plug has been pulled on the Taysom Hill quarterback experiment. He will exclusively be a tight end and probably move around and do some other things, but not be a quarterback. And when you see that Trevor Siemian is gone, Hill moves out of the quarterback room, Ian Book is there, kid from Notre Dame they really like. But they bring in Andy Dalton on a 1-year, $6 million deal worth up to $6 million with $3 million guaranteed. So it becomes Winston, Dalton, Book. Dalton would be the game day replacement for Winston, right, and presumably the guy who would take over if there's a short-term injury. Book, the guy they're trying to develop. But Dalton finds a landing spot. The Saints had a need, and Hey, if Hill's out of the quarterback room, they needed a veteran. Simeon left for the Bears. They needed someone. They got Dalton, a guy who has done some good things in the league and has kind of become a forgotten man in recent years.
I agree, but I think this is a great role for him. And I agree they needed a veteran. Listen, Taysom Hill, God love the contract that he signed and the money that he got. I will always be for players getting all the money as they can. But I never understood the thought process of him being the quarterback of that team. Never. To fill in occasionally and do some of the stuff he did, okay. But to say, this is now the quarterback of an NFL franchise, I never thought that. I never understood that. So I think this is a great move, bringing in Andy Dalton, a safe guy as your backup, a guy that you want, to plug the holes in the dam if your guy goes down for a little while to try and keep your head above water. I think it's a good move, and I think it's a move that had to be made.
And, it was so strange. I feel like Sean Payton was trying to coach the Taysom Hill quarterback reality into existence. And he did some great things, and he had some great moments, and he was 3-1, I believe, replacing Drew Brees a couple of years ago. But it never really clicked. And when he didn't win the starting job last year, when Winston won the starting job, that was the end of it for Taysom Hill. So that's the end of it, and he won't be a quarterback anymore.